Hello, everyone, and welcome to Healthy Cooking with Shayda. I'm your host, and today we have something very, very special for you. So today we have a special interview and cooking demonstration. Today we have the pleasure of sitting down with the author of America Goes Vegan, this phenomenal book that you all must pick up, Glen Merzer, and the talented chef, Tracy Childs, who will be showcasing some delicious recipes from the book. America Goes Vegan has captivated readers with its powerful insights into the growing vegan movement across the nation. Glen Merzer's expertise and passion for advocating a plant-based lifestyle has ignited change in countless lives. And we're in for a treat as Tracy, a seasoned chef and expert in plant-based cuisine, will be guiding us through a cooking demo. Today, Tracy will show us that vegan cooking can be incredibly flavorful and satisfying. Throughout this session, we'll delve into the inspiration behind America Goes Vegan, the challenges and victories in promoting a plant-based living, and the incredible impact it has had on individuals and communities alike. So get ready to be inspired, informed, and tantalized by the wisdom of Glen Merzer and the culinary expert, Tracy Childs. So let's dive in. Welcome, Glen. Welcome, Tracy, to our show.
Hi, Shayda. Great to be here.
Hey, hi, Shayda.
Hi, guys. Well, you guys have knocked it out of the park with this book. I really enjoyed reading it. I've enjoyed looking through the recipes. But before we get started, for those of you that are watching right now, and should you have any questions for Glen or for Tracy, please go ahead and put your questions in the chat box, and make sure you first put 3 question marks, your question, and then followed by 3 more question marks. So that way Aaron has an easier time in finding it. So Glen, I got to ask, what was your inspiration behind this beautiful book?
Well, I wanted to write a book to try to demonstrate how easy it is to go vegan. It really isn't difficult at all, although people I know who have never been vegan often think there's going to be something daunting about it. I wanted to bring along Tracy to prove that all your favorite American comfort foods, you could still have healthy plant-based versions of them. So Tracy did recipes for things like mac and cheese, and we did burgers, and she did hot dogs, and all your favorite American comfort foods. You could still have them. There's nothing difficult about this. There's nothing difficult about opening a can of beans. There's nothing difficult about cooking rice and cooking vegetables. And it keeps you healthy. I'm getting old now. I'm 67 years old. And I never go to the doctor.
You're not old. You're 67 years young.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you know, every year when I go for my annual checkup, I always go for an annual checkup. It's just a tradition with me to try to see how my doctor is feeling.
Sure.
And I go there, and they always say in the office staff, "What's your pharmacy?" And I say, "I don't know. If I need a toothbrush, I go to whichever one I want."
That's fantastic. And do your doctors ever ask you, like, what are you eating? What are you doing to stay so healthy and vibrant?
Well, the conventional doctor that I go to, he doesn't seem to believe in the plant-based diet, but he's not trying to talk me out of it. I also have a plant-based physician. My wife and I do that. We do televisits with if we ever want to discuss something.
Very nice. So so in reading your book, I didn't know that at 17 you became vegetarian. What inspired you to become vegetarian at that time, and how did your family and your parents, were they on board with this, or were they giving you a hard time? I mean, what inspired you to, even at that young of an age, to become a vegetarian?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question, because I can now plug the fact that I have a YouTube channel called The Glen Merzer Show on YouTube. And as soon as you log into The Glen Merzer Show on YouTube, you will hear me tell the story of when I went vegetarian at the age of 17. But the short answer is that there was a lot of death in my family. My family has terrible genes for heart disease. So I didn't know my grandparents. They were dead before I was born.
wow.
Two of my uncles died, one in his 40s, one in his 50s when I was 16. So I decided when I'm 17, I'm going to become a vegetarian. I decided I would start on the first day of summer vacation after my junior year in high school. So
Wow.
I got up that morning and I decided I'm a vegetarian now, so I'm going to have an English muffin for breakfast, put up an English muffin, put jam on it. And the phone rang, and it was my old buddy Dave, who I grew up with. And I said, Dave, congratulate me. I became a vegetarian. And he said, well, that's great. Since when? And I said, well, since breakfast. And he laughed at me. And that was 50 years ago, and I haven't had any meat since. So it's a really good thing that he laughed at me. And so, I wasn't going to ever eat meat again and give him the satisfaction that.
That's wonderful. What about your parents? Were your parents on board with you becoming vegetarian?
When I told my mother that I became a vegetarian that day, she said, well, what took you so long?
Wow.
And I said, what do you mean, what took me so long? She said,
Wow.
well, when I was pregnant with you, I was determined to raise you as a vegetarian.
Wow.
And I said, well, why is that, Mom? You're not a vegetarian.
Sure.
Dad's not a vegetarian. My older sister wasn't a vegetarian. Why were you going to raise me as a vegetarian? And she said, because, Glenn, when I was pregnant with you, you felt like a vegetarian.
Oh, that's fantastic. What does
Yeah.
a vegetarian feel like? I mean,
My mother was a little flaky.
oh, that's funny.
Yeah. So she was determined to raise me as a vegetarian from birth, but the doctor talked her out of it. The doctor said I wouldn't grow up strong and my brain wouldn't develop.
Oh, my goodness.
So that doctor goes down in history as managing to harm me before I was born.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, it's now, what about your friends in high school? Would they tease you? Would they say, come on, Glenn, let's go have a burger. Let's go here. Let's go there.
If they did, it didn't bother me. I never had, and this is a really thing I'm lucky about, I guess, Shayda. I never had the gene for caring what other people think.
That's good.
I just never cared. But I don't remember taking a lot of ribbing about it, but also I didn't talk about it a lot because I was just doing it for my own health. I didn't want to be middle-aged at 25. And I wasn't interested in what other people were eating. I wasn't interested in converting other people. And that didn't change until after I wrote with Howard Lyman the book Mad Cowboy.
That was a great book.
Yeah, and I learned about what was happening to the land because of animal agriculture. Howard was a cattle rancher turned vegan and animal rights activist. And when I learned how destructive animal agriculture is to the land and the water and the air, I began to realize everyone's got to go vegan. It's not like we could just take the attitude, well, you do what you want to do and I'm doing what I want to do. That would be my natural attitude.
Right.
But the planet is at stake. And right now, Canada has been on fire. We've had terrible heat in Phoenix and the Southwest, terrible storms, terrible tornadoes. And it's because of the climate warming, and the leading cause of climate warming is animal agriculture. The burning of fossil fuels is in second place. So there's no way to save the earth unless we stop animal agriculture.
I couldn't agree with you more. How old were you when you finally did go vegan?
When I went vegan, I was about 35.
So it took a while to get there.
Yeah,
Did
I spent 19 years as a vegetarian eating cheese. That was the only animal product I ate, cheese. But then I started to get some pains in my heart
Oh, wow.
because I got this
Wow.
family history. If you eat cholesterol, you get heart disease. And I was
Sure.
stupidly eating cholesterol in the form of cheese. So I started to get heart pains, and a normal person would go to a cardiologist, but I don't like going to doctors. So I just thought about it. And I thought, well, I'm not eating meat because of the saturated fat and cholesterol, but I'm eating cheese because some people made me worry about protein. That's crazy. So I
Well,
stopped eating cheese and I never had any symptom again.
was it hard for you to give up the cheese? Because I know
No,
cheese can be very addictive.
no. I knew it was going to kill me.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I didn't
I
think twice about it.
I love what you write in the book saying, and I'm reading from your book, it says Americans suffer from excess of protein. Americans are, however, widely deficient in fiber. And it's true because there's no fiber in meat. So why are we obsessed with protein, protein, protein?
Well, there are certain industries that make a lot of money when people become obsessed with that.
Right.
The meat industry, the dairy industry. And so, they look to see what their products have. So like dairy has a lot of calcium. So they say, oh, you really need calcium.
Right.
These products don't have fiber, so they don't say anything about how you need fiber. Well, you need a lot of fiber. You don't need a lot of protein.
No.
So too much, an excess of protein is harmful. And it's hard to get an excess of fiber. So the correct way to approach nutrition is to just look to see how many plants you could eat during a day. Just eat a lot of plants, and don't even worry about protein because there's plenty of protein in plants.
I find it interesting that the minute you tell somebody that you're a vegetarian or you're vegan, especially when you tell them you're vegan, the first question they ask you is, well, where do you get your protein?
Right.
And I'm like, well, where do you get your protein? Where do you get your fiber? Where do you get because it's like all of a sudden they become this nutritionist that knows what's good for you and for your body. That's the first thing. Where do you get your protein? It's the craziest thing.
Yeah. Well, that's, when I've told my aunt and uncle when I was 17 that I'd become a vegetarian, they were obese. They were each over 100 pounds overweight, and they were terribly alarmed for my health. And they said, where are you going to get your protein? And so I said, I guess from cheese. And that was the start of a 19-year-long mistake.
Yeah,
I didn't eat too much cheese, though. So
well, I had a hard time giving up cheese, I'll tell you that, because growing up in the Middle East and growing up here, we ate a lot of feta cheese. And to be honest with you, one of the reasons that I actually went vegan, I never liked meat. Meat was something that my mom always told me I had to have because, again, we were under this myth of you need protein, protein, protein. And even with meat, I remember in our family, we only had it maybe once a week. And, the meat back then was all natural. They were hormone free. They didn't have all these things injected into them. But I remember with the cheese, one of my favorites was that feta cheese. Feta cheese and the Persian cuisine, they go hand in hand. So giving that up, and the only reason I stopped was because I became really allergic to it. So thank God for me becoming allergic to dairy and to eggs, because it saved my life, I would say,
Yeah.
But one thing you write in here, and I love this, is that the World Class Health Organization has categorized processed meat as a class 1 carcinogen, and the other red meat as the mere class 2. So meat eaters, pick your poison. Like, wow. I mean, when you tell that to somebody, it's like, seriously, how do you want to die? And yet they continue to eat it.
It's astounding to me. I try to understand why people do this, and the only explanation I've been able to come up with is that it's just they're familiar with it. I grew up with my parents feeding me meat, and I loved going to McDonald's on Sunday. It was a tradition. I would go to McDonald's and get 2 burgers and fries and a milkshake. and it was terribly destructive to my health, and my parents didn't know any better. So, I forgive them. They didn't know
Of
better.
course. Of
But I
course.
think that's the hard thing for people is they don't want to say, "Oh, my parents fed me wrong." They want to just cling to the idea that maybe there was some sense to the way they've been eating all their lives. But there is no sense to it. We are herbivores. And, I'll tell you an interesting thing that most people don't view it this way, but it's a nice, simple way to understand nutrition. An experiment was done in 1913 in Russia. That's a long time ago.
Absolutely.
And we don't approve of animal experiments, but this experiment happened to be on rabbits. And this scientist fed cholesterol in the form of egg yolks to rabbits, and the rabbits all got atherosclerosis.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Yeah.
And it was since established that every time you feed cholesterol to an herbivore like a rabbit, they get atherosclerosis. But if you feed cholesterol to a dog, which is an omnivore, or to a cat, which is a carnivore, they never get atherosclerosis. So let's do the math. We know that herbivores always get atherosclerosis if they've fed cholesterol. We know that carnivores and omnivores never get atherosclerosis if they're fed cholesterol. Humans get atherosclerosis. Conclusion, humans are herbivores. We are, in fact, the only animal in the world that gets atherosclerosis because the carnivores and the omnivores don't get it. And the other herbivores are smart enough to eat plants.
Right.
So we're the only ones with atherosclerosis.
Isn't that crazy? That's just crazy. So I think you need some explaining to do because I don't like beer, but if beer has potassium, maybe I should start drinking beer. What did you write in here? And you even say, I hope I won't regret for writing this.
Well, my point was that beer has potassium. It doesn't mean beer is healthy. I'm not recommending beer, but beer has potassium.
Right.
The same way that milk has calcium. And when you tell people you don't drink milk, you don't have dairy, they say, where do you get your calcium? So you can say the same thing to somebody, you don't drink beer, where do you get your potassium?
That's so funny. I was laughing so hard when I read that in the book. I'm like, oh my God, I have to tease Glenn about, and I don't drink beer. I don't drink at all. And I was actually going to go buy a beer can and open it and say, hey, Glenn, here's the toast. But I'm like, no, I don't want to send that message out or anything. So how many books have you now written about the vegan movement, recipes? And because I know you thought you were only going to write one at the beginning, but
right.
I think you outdone yourself.
I'm trying to remember if it's 12 or 13. Now, a number of these I've co-authored.
Sure.
Like I co-authored with Howard Lyman, Mad Cowboy and No More Bull. And I co-authored with AJ, her book on Processed, and now we did a 10th anniversary edition. And also Secrets to Ultimate Weight Loss. And of course, Tracy is my co-author on this one. Tracy wrote a chapter about cooking, and she wrote the recipes. So they're not all only mine. I do have one novel that I wrote called Off the Reservation, which is the story of a vegan congressman who runs for president.
Wow. Okay. Very nice. Well, let's talk to Tracy a little bit. Tracy, welcome to the show. Tell us about yourself.
Hey.
Hi.
Thank you. Yes, it's been fun listening because, when I first met Glenn and I read, his story and I said, wait a second, I became vegetarian when I was 17 too.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. Very, different reason really, for whatever reason, my family is pretty hardy. And we didn't eat lots of meat growing up. So I think my mom was, I'm California. So she read Sunset Magazine religiously, and, she would do, all kinds of veggies and, of course, there would always be animal products, lots of cheese or different things, but it was, we were more foodies, I guess. And would eat vegetarian meals or whatever. So I just didn't even like meat. So I found out that there was vegetarians, or that, that was a possibility. So I said, okay, I'll be vegetarian. It really had to do with seeing the cross section in biology class of the meat too, just all the microorganisms, and the teacher saying, well, naming them all and giving them all the names and saying, well, this could kill you. This one, and I said, but don't worry, we just cook it and it's fine. And so I was like, well, yeah, but it's not fine. I don't want to eat that stuff.
No.
I don't even know how, every other kid in the classroom, that didn't affect them that way, but it affected me that way. And I was the only vegetarian I knew forever, right? I mean, I went to college in Idaho, which is kind of insane for a vegetarian.
And it's meat and potatoes, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So I went to, but I was a vegetarian, just like Glenn. So I definitely ate, and seriously, just like Glenn, I really only liked cheese. I wasn't big on ice cream. I wasn't big on milk. So I would just eat cheese. And once in a while I ate fish. Back then, that was kind of part of the definition, but it was just because of, I really wasn't into it, but it was just if there was nothing else to eat, especially in Idaho. Yeah, so it's just been that journey of being fascinated with the lifestyle, and just getting in the kitchen and learning and following all the gurus too over time, just following John Robbins, Neil Bernard, Howard Lyman back then, read the books, and then would get all the newsletters of all the different organizations, Vegetarian Resource Group, which actually was a vegan organization. So I started to get the clue in like the late 80s about veganism. And I had a few friends and at work too. And I said to them, I said, you're vegan. It's like, what? Why? I didn't really, I was so curious though. So I did research, and then I understood why. And so, it took me a little while, but I just got rid of all the dairy and all the eggs. And it wasn't difficult to do. I mean, it was difficult to do if you step out of your house.
Well, yeah, you didn't have all the things that you have now accessible to you back then. It was much more.
The recipes, like now, I mean, there are so many great ideas and recipes, and the chefs are just, people are motivated, and so they're coming up with great ideas. And I always say that human beings, we have so much ingenuity, right?
Right.
So why haven't we solved this problem? Why can't we, make it easy for people? And we talk about that, like why people are having such a hard time, like Glenn says, yeah, you cook vegetables, open a can of beans. Well, most people don't do that. It's like they just eat what's in front of them. They don't think about it. They just, okay, I'm driving down the street and I see fast food and I just pull in, I'm hungry. And, that's it. And so we just need to somehow reach those people. I don't know how. We need to make it easier. That's the focus. And so that's why I have a food company too.
I think that's great. Talk about your food company, because I didn't know you had a food company. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, so I've been a food for life instructor. So when I found the PCRM in I think I was one of their first members, and started following them, and they were having an outreach program of teaching people how to cook are, in the community. So I wanted to be one of the first Food for Life instructors that they trained. So I became a Food for Life instructor in 2005 and started in my community teaching in hospitals and YMCAs and just teaching the Food for Life program. Back then it was How Foods Fight Cancer. And I thought that was great because a lot of people are just there, they want to make a change. People are motivated. They were like, what led me to this, along this path to get this? Whereas, with diabetes, heart disease, especially heart disease, it's hopefully a little more obvious, but I guess it's not to some people. But anyways, we wanted to just teach the how you can go on with your life and prevent a recurrence, basically. So I was teaching those classes and having events, and had my organization, still do, Plant Diego, which is a Plant Pure Pod, part of the Plant Pure communities. And so the pandemic hit. Before that, I had always been, working on my brand, making like little bags and sending gifts and just creating products. And I loved the whole idea, but I hadn't really thought about doing it as a business. But when we couldn't do the in-person classes anymore, my husband and I both decided to just jump right in and learn about the food business and actually, get the licensing and get the commercial kitchen and do all that. So we just started it, and it's been a journey. It's a lot of work. It's challenging, but I really believe in it. I really believe that we need to make it easier for people. It has to be convenient. And, I have really high standards about my ingredients. And that's one issue that we have, of course, is the cost of ingredients. I wish my stuff was like, I haven't changed my prices in so long, but, it's not, it's not McDonald's food, let's just say.
No, it's not. No, not at all. And I get with
inflation, and then I haven't raised my prices. I tell you, you guys should check out my website, Tracy's Real Foods.
Give us the name of your website.
Tracy'sRealFoods.com. Yeah, I have burgers. I just did a little package to show the packaging and the ingredients on the burgers. So you can see there's like everything you need in there. It's got, and I do another one too, just a black bean. So 2 types of burgers, the all-American. This one, people love this. It's got a barbecue sauce flavor. So yeah, it's and super simple. All people have to do is basically put them in the toaster oven. They're fully cooked. So almost like a cookie, except that it's a savory cookie, and you just put it in the toaster oven, heat it up, freeze it, and then put it in the toaster oven and heat it up, make your burger. So you get to focus on the ingredients and the toppings and all that fun stuff. You don't have to actually make the burger. But we do have all these great recipes in the book too, for people that want to get in the kitchen. And
I've gone through the book and I've looked at the recipes, and seriously, you guys, if you don't have this book is fantastic. And I think everybody who's not a vegan, all you vegan people need to buy this book for all your non-vegans, because we need to get the message out. And Tracy, I agree with you about making it simpler. Years ago, I had thought about, like, I would have loved to have gotten a food truck and have it, but completely SOS-free vegan food truck, and taking it out on the road. But I'm just one person and I just can't do it by myself. But I also think you living in San Diego, you guys have a huge raw food community and more vegan options than I know here in Orange County. And the vegan options that we have here in Orange County, unfortunately, it's not the healthy vegan.
Oh, same here, believe me. I think since the pandemic, people have gone the opposite way you think they would, because I thought, obviously it's a big health crisis. You should, worry about your health and actually try to eat healthier, because that's really the only thing you have control over. But I felt like, a lot of the vegan companies, or I sell my products at vegan pop-ups, and I'm a little disappointed at the options, that there's a lot of fried food and not a lot of whole food options except me. So but I teach, I mean, I sell stuff to take home, not a prepared meal, but maybe I should, because I feel like it's necessary. But,
Yeah.
it's even the vegans, though, they make these choices based on feeling like they're going to be deprived or something, I think, or they just want to just eat exactly how they're eating before, only vegan. They
Yeah, no, I get it, because I have a lot of Persian friends, and my mom's Persian friends, whenever they came to the house, my mom at the beginning would tell me, hey, are you going to make such and such and such? And I said, no, they're going to eat what we're eating. And I've converted Persian recipes to completely SOS free, no meat, nothing. And I said, let's just serve them what we're making. The desserts will all be there, and let's see what happens. And believe it or not, half of them didn't even miss the fact that there was no meat in there. They didn't miss the fact that there was no oil in there. And they're like, oh, this tastes actually better than what we make at home. It tastes better than the original. I'm like, to me, as long as the food tastes good,
Yeah.
I think that's how you're going to win the people. But if the food doesn't taste good, you're not. You're going to lose them.
It just needs to taste good. You're absolutely right. And the oil, it just, I'm sure your stuff tastes better because the oil interferes with your taste buds.
Absolutely.
And it just, you taste the oil before you taste the flavor. And so, and then you need to add more salt because you're not, because of the oil, you're not really tasting the food. So that's awesome that you're doing that, and
I think
you need to write a vegan cookbook for sure, SOS free Persian cookbook. That would be so awesome.
Well, thank you for mentioning that, because Glenn and I and Gustavo Tolosa were in the process of writing our book, and there's going to be lots and lots of Persian recipes that have been converted completely SOS free. So,
oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so we're in the process of. And Glenn, what's the name of our book?
Well, I'm sorry, what did you say, Shayda?
I said, what's the name of our book?
Well, you know the name.
I know. I want you to say it.
It's Live Your Healthiest Life.
One bite at a time, one meal at a time.
One bite at a time, one meal at a time.
I think that just says it all. I owe that to my grandmother for not using too much oil, because even back in the day, grandma never really liked the taste of oil. So I remember our rice would typically be a little bit on the drier side. She used oil, but not a whole heck of a lot. And when we used to ask, and back then we didn't know why she didn't use a lot of oil. The only thing we knew is that she would say it bothered her throat, that it just, the coating or whatever it did to her throat, she didn't like it. So that was good for us. And like I said, meat in that house was literally once a week. Otherwise, it was beans and potatoes and lots of fresh herbs, lots of salads, healthy, delicious stuff. So how did the two of you come together to write this book?
Well, I was introduced to Tracy, I think, by my friend Silas Rao when I was writing my book, Food is Climate. I wanted to have recipes at the end of the book, and Tracy not only is a chef herself, but she knows many other chefs through the Food for Life program at PCRM. So Tracy kind of organized a whole group of chefs who each contributed a few recipes to that book, Food is Climate. And speaking of that book, Food is Climate, if you buy a copy of America Goes Vegan, either the paperback or the Kindle, just send in your proof of purchase to veganbonus@yahoo.com. That's veganbonus@yahoo.com. And you will be sent a bonus packet in an email, including my book, a PDF of my book, Food is Climate. So you can get that book, Food is Climate, with all those recipes. You could get an extra bonus recipe file from Tracy, an extra bonus recipe file from my wife, Joanna, and some other bonuses. So you get all those bonuses just with sending proof of purchase of this book to veganbonus@yahoo.com. Allow a couple days sometimes for the bonuses to arrive.
I think that's fantastic. Okay, we've been talking about food for so much that Tracy, what are we making today?
Yay! So we are making one of my favorite recipes, which is the pesto potatoes.
What a name.
So it's kind of like a play on a potato salad,
Okay.
but you're, making it so much healthier because you're putting pesto on it. And does that pesto have a bunch of like cheese and oil? No. So it's just, I like to show people how you can create these recipes and these things that we're used to eating without those ingredients that are harmful to your health. So what I've done so far is I've gone ahead and made the potatoes. So this is the Yukon Gold potatoes. And what I did was I just, cut up a potato, real easy. I just, I like to cut them in half, and then I put the flat side down and get nice bite-sized pieces. Get your water boiling and put in the potatoes, and it takes about 12 minutes. So then you just go till they're like this. And then I put the corn. So you can use, of course, fresh corn if you have it off the cob, or you can use frozen corn. And so I just put the frozen corn in the hot water at the very end. And so cook that up. So then now we're just ready to make the pesto. So let's see here. Here's my.
Tracy, before we get any further, do you have the skin on the potatoes on it, or did you remove the skin, or does it matter?
No, I leave it on.
Okay.
That's what I love about those potatoes is let me get this a little closer. The Yukon Golds are amazing. They have I think they have, I'm sure they have extra nutrition in them because they have color inside. You can of course do this with sweet potatoes, which are even healthier. But if you want it, just kind of only taste the pesto and the other ingredients, the base of the Yukon Gold is nice. So yeah, I don't recommend trying to peel those. It'd be really a lot of work. So
But people that's a question that runs through people's minds. Do I peel it, not peel it?
Yeah, true. So I do peel garlic. So a couple of cloves of garlic gonna go into our pesto.
Are you using any pine nuts in this pesto?
I am not. I'm using, this is a poor man's pesto.
No, I like the fact that you're not using any pine nuts. I'm happy about it.
Well, I'm using tahini. So
But that's different.
yeah. Can you see that? So this is a meat tenderizer. Never touched meat. So that's a great way to get those peels off your garlic. And so then I like to just kind of chop the garlic first in the food processor. So what I do, anytime you want to chop garlic, you can just run your food processor, like get it started and just drop them in. So I really recommend that if you're getting into this lifestyle, that you start getting this equipment. Get your food processor, get your high-speed blender. So just drop them in. See, it's just chopping them up. So then I like a mixture of greens. So this is some arugula, got a little wilty in the heat. This is some power greens, and this is some basil. It's about 2 cups of each of those. Now these recipes are on my blog. I'm gonna, take some nice photos too. So tracysrealfoods.com blog, you can get the recipes, and of course get the book. You'll get tons more great recipes. So the basil can all go in, the power greens can go in. I love the bite of a little arugula, so that can go in. And arugula, a lot of people don't know, is actually a cruciferous vegetable. So you guys know what that means?
Yes.
it means it has calcium, right? Plant-based calcium.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm just chopping that up. Just close to chop. Sometimes I put more. And then I use, you know, you can use lemon juice. Traditionally it'd be lemon. I like to put a little bit of lemon and some rice vinegar. You can, you know, if you don't have any lemons on hand, you know, just put in some vinegar, put a lime or whatever. Just it needs some tartness to help to neutralize the greens. It just adds a lot of flavor. So I put just a touch of lemon, and I'll put some rice vinegar, any kind of light vinegar, like you could use a white balsamic. If you want to add flavor, you can use the flavored vinegar. Or I'm going to go ahead and put some hemp seeds in. And I'll put the tahini. So it's a sesame tahini. That's going to make it creamy.
Did you make your own tahini or did you buy it?
I bought it. But if you do make it, it's great if you use the unhulled sesame seeds, brown sesame seeds.
Right.
Because that's where all the calcium is.
Yeah, because I typically will make it myself. But at the beginning, I used to buy the raw tahini. When I was at OHI, they taught us to use the raw tahini. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
This is raw, but it's the convenience. Since I'm in the food industry myself, when I'm cooking for myself, I definitely need to take those shortcuts.
Oh no, I totally get it. I totally get it. But there's something about making your own tahini that is just tastes so much better than this one.
Well, like I said, you can make it so much healthier too than yeah. So a little pepper, and you know, how are you going to get that cheesy flavor? A little nutritional yeast. You can get organic nutritional yeast on Amazon.
You get the unfortified?
Unfortified, yes. And I do I use it in my products and my burgers. I have a hemp parm that I sell. Oh, actually not hemp, sunny parm, sunflower seed parm, and chicken free seasoning. And that's what I use, the organic unfortified nutritional yeast. All right. Oh, and then you can add a little bit of unsweetened milk. Just a touch, just to even it all out a little bit. So that's basically it. But I love, you know, the versatility of making a pesto, because you can use all different kinds of greens. You can use different nuts and seeds. You know, you can add some sun-dried tomatoes to it. You can do all kinds of stuff.
So what would you use this pesto?
Hold on, it's running here.
Yeah. I mean, if somebody's watching and they're not really familiar with pesto, how would you use it?
How would you use pesto?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can put it on pasta, of course. You can put it on your, almost like having avocado toast.
Okay.
You'll put it on your toast. I love Ezekiel bread. And so you can add some tomatoes to it, some marinated onions. So good. You know, so yeah, and you know, it's very versatile. You can just have it in the fridge. And what's great is, you know, you saw all the greens that went into it. So
you're making me hungry, Tracy. I want that pesto.
So I put some miso in there also. That's what I like to add instead of salt. Is you know, obviously if you're avoiding all salt, then you can just leave it out. But I like to add some miso, because it's not supposed to raise your blood pressure as much as regular salt. So
I use a little miso.
Nice
it looks good.
Okay, so now bring you guys over here So now we just add, about a cup of this. It's pretty much what we have here. It's about a cup, the recipe. And first I'm going to add some cherry tomatoes. Going to add some really pretty color to the dish and flavor. And then you can just add your pesto on here. Can you see? Yeah. So,
we can see it.
oh, I love it. It's just, it's funny, specifically Glenn was like, we need a pesto recipe. So Glenn, you must be a fan.
I am. And I love potatoes.
Glenn, do you make a pesto?
I can't say that I have done that. My wife has. My wife makes it very often.
There you go.
Well, so you get to eat pesto.
I do.
Because the restaurants, it's never going to be vegan unless it's a vegan restaurant.
Even with a vegan restaurant, it's not going to be as clean as what you're making.
True. Very true.
Usually Joanna makes a basil-based pesto, but sometimes it's parsley-based.
Oh, that sounds really good too. You can mix the parsley and the basil.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's you can make a chimichurri sauce.
Absolutely.
Chimichurri sauce, right?
Yep.
That's very similar type of an idea. And that's with parsley or cilantro. Yeah, you can add cilantro to this. I don't know. It's just good stuff.
You can make this for St. Patrick's Day because you want something green.
Yeah, absolutely. That's right. So there you go.
Look how beautiful that is. I mean, seriously, our food, it's so vibrant, it's so colorful, it's so good. Instead of having a piece of dead meat or dead flesh on top of our, plate. This is
right. And this has got your salad and your starch.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's what's great about it. And I was going to say, if you use kale, the baby kale would process up, but if you use regular curly kale, I've done it before, and it's the texture is a little it doesn't get as smooth. So you could parboil your kale, and I have a great recipe for that in the book called cheesy kale, and just parboil the kale, and then it's gonna soften it up, tenderize it up a little. So
I don't know about you, Tracy, in San Diego, but lately I've had a hard time finding baby kale in any of the grocery stores here. I finally found over at Whole Foods, but they don't carry the baby kale that much anymore.
Maybe I had bought some power greens, and I'm assuming there was kale in there. I don't know.
Yeah, but if you look at the power greens, there's not that much kale, but they used to before you could buy like just baby kale. Like I remember buying it all the time, even from Trader Joe's or Whole Foods or Sprouts. But now it's really, really hard to find. And I don't know why. I don't know what's going on. I mean,
yeah, we can still buy kale, thankfully.
well, you can buy the curly one, you could buy the Lucindo, but the baby kale is just a little bit hard because I like to juice sometimes for me and Mom when the weather is really hot, and it's been hard to find lately.
All right, so now I wanted to show a quick dessert.
Yay! We all love dessert.
I'm into the quick desserts and quick recipes. So I know a lot of people might already be familiar with making your own ice cream, banana ice cream. And this is a technique that I don't know, I saw it on TikTok, honestly.
TikTok of all places.
Yeah, well, my daughter came down during the pandemic. She lives in LA, and she stayed with us for a little while. And so she was really into TikTok. So we would, and vegan TikTok specifically. So this guy showed how he made, let me get a knife, how he made his ice cream in an easier way.
And what's the name of your dessert that you're making today?
It's a vanilla spiced ice cream.
Nice.
And so it's it's a very simple one. We like to do chocolate all the time. This one's just a spiced one, very simple. So this is a really good topping for if you make like a crumble or an apple pie or anything like that. You can have this as your topping for that, because it's simple. It doesn't have a ton of outstanding flavor. But the trick is combining your frozen bananas. So, keep your frozen bananas sliced. I always slice them. And if you have a fresh banana on hand, then you can do this. If you don't, then I'd recommend that you thaw your bananas a bit. You might have to add more liquid. It's a little more hard work to get it to blend down and get nice and smooth. So this is just taking your Vitamix and adding a few slices of your ripe banana in the bottom. So it has something for the blades to catch on to. Sure. And the amount that you add just depends on how much ice cream you're making. So you don't want to add too much, because then it's going to get too soft. But if you do that, you can always just stick in the freezer, put it in a container, stick it in the freezer, and it'll firm up again. So you go ahead and I'm going to add my ingredients here: a little vanilla, so about a teaspoon of vanilla. I'm going to add some hemp seeds here. I love adding hemp seeds because they're high in protein, omega-3s. They're great. They're creamy when you blend them up. So similar to like cashews. This is pumpkin pie spice. I like making my own pumpkin pie spice for my products. I have a pumpkin cookie that will come out again in the fall, and carrot cake spice cookies that have really great flavor. And now I'm going to keep my milk on the side, and if I need it, I will put some in. But when you add something liquidy, it makes it softer and not as firm. So you got it. That's the one thing with making your own ice cream, is just kind of learning the technique and learning about how to run it and how to get it going to get a nice smooth consistency.
I used to make banana ice cream in the Vitamix, but I did not know until you just showed us about putting a fresh banana first on the bottom and then adding your frozen on top.
Yeah, so that recipe talks about doing that. So you can do that with any recipe though. Any ice cream recipe you can, if you have them, it's like they get to be a little ripe and you're kind of like, okay, these need to be frozen. So
right.
You can also, what you can do is you can put some of your frozen bananas in the microwave or let them sit out and let them get soft. Keep the other ones in the freezer. Yeah. So there's different ideas. So, all right. So it's going to make noise, but luckily Zoom will get rid of it for us. So you guys can chat. I'll be doing this.
It's okay. All good.
Shayda, I don't know who came up with the term ice cream. Do you?
I have no idea. I don't know. I guess it's because we're not hurting the animals. So ice cream. I guess. I don't know.
But you see how fast that was.
That was fast.
And you didn't add any liquid, right?
Yeah, I didn't end up adding any liquid.
That's fantastic.
Let me get my ice cream scoop and a nice dish.
You know, I just came out with a recipe, the peach cobbler recipe last week, and this would have been perfect on top of that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So you
Look
got
at
your ice cream.
Look at that. That's fantastic.
And I wanted to show a topping real quick. Hopefully it'll be quick. And there's a recipe called toasted topping in the book. And it's just taking your nice little ingredients, a couple ingredients, and toasting them up to make a topping. So you can just have this on hand and put it. It just kind of is a way to make things pop a little more. You know, and I also like to teach people about the toasting process and what you need to add first. So what do you think you need to add first of these ingredients?
The pumpkin seeds.
Oats, and this is very fine coconut.
Is this a test, Tracy?
That's a test.
It's a test.
No, pumpkin
I don't
seeds.
know.
So
I
pumpkin
didn't study.
seeds are the one that takes the
Right.
longest. So I always add those first.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, because the oats and the coconut is going to burn, well, especially the coconut will burn really fast.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So what I do now is when I'm I like to while these are cooking a little bit, I'm going to put my stuff in the freezer.
Glenn, I think you and I need to go to Tracy's house right after the end of the show.
I have ordered her cookies and some other treats, and they were great.
Yeah, I didn't even know about it. So
They are really good.
yeah, I never knew. Now I learned something new today. That's fantastic.
That's your favorite. You can buy them.
Online?
Where can they buy your burgers and your cookies, Tracy?
So it's tracysrealfoods.com. And if you're in San Diego, we do vegan food pop-up. You can follow them. You can follow First Friday and that good market. So here's the nice cream. I'm just gonna stick it in the freezer.
Where do you do your vegan pop-ups in San Diego?
There was one.
So there are different places. So I can just talk while we're watching this too. There's one this Friday in La Mesa at Grossmont Center Mall. So it's just in the parking lot of the mall, so really convenient. So these are already getting nice and toasted, and they start to get a little pop. They're fine raw, of course. This is just making a little more of a crunch. But yeah, these days, a lot of the pop-ups are in San Diego proper. San Diego County is very, very big. And we've had some in the North County. Actually, there are some in the North County in Vista. But we just do some of them. We don't do all of them.
Are you ever at the farmer's market on the North Park side?
No, haven't done the farmers markets yet, but we'd like to. Right now, we've just been doing the vegan market. So you can hear them pop.
Yep.
Start to hear our seeds popping. And then what do we add? So we can add the oats. So once you start hearing them pop, the oats, to me, that's toasting them, just gives them a nice depth of flavor that is just, a lot of us eat a lot of oats, but usually we're not toasting them like this. And so it's just really a good way to add a healthy crunch. It shouldn't take long to get some browning on that. And then I'll just add the coconut. So of course you just add whatever you like, your favorite ingredients. If you just want to, add sunflower seeds or some kind of slivered almonds, or you just want to stick to the just oats. if you're really going super low fat, then just you can toast up oats and they'll get nice and crunchy and you can put those on top. And I wanted to also talk about cacao nibs. So these are going to be great on an ice cream as well. And then of course, don't forget the berries. These are from our blackberry bush.
Oh, nice. That's very nice. That looks really, really good.
Yeah.
Too bad we don't have smell-o-vision, so we could smell what you're,
I know.
how it's smelling in your kitchen right now.
I know. And I want to make sure everybody knows you can go to our website and I'm going to add a code for you too. Shayda 15, so people can get 15% off their first
Oh,
order.
that's fantastic. Thank you so much, Tracy. You just made Erin's day and my day for that matter. So thank you.
You can put it in the show notes if you want, and or I can put it in the comments too. So, okay. And this is, you know, neither my husband or I are real fans of coconut, but I like it toasted like this.
Yeah, it tastes much better.
Tastes much better toasted. Yeah. So of course this is hot, so it'll kind of melt our ice cream right now, but you want to cool it. And this is my nice little cooker here.
Those are really handy. When I used to teach cooking classes at the house, I had a few of those, and they really do come in handy.
Yeah, so people can see what you're doing, right? Instead of having your back to everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so you can see that the coconut has turned more of a golden color. This doesn't have a really good connection on this surface, but it's, you know, much faster on a gas stove, much faster.
That's okay. You don't need to burn it.
Yeah, no burning. So yeah, so now you can grab out your dessert. And you add a little bit of your topping. And then you can just add some of your berries. And, you know, it's like, it doesn't need to be difficult, right? It's
Absolutely. I think people just make it more difficult for themselves. They don't believe you and me when we say, you know, it's really, really simple. Just keep it simple and easy.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, yeah. Let's put that back in the freezer.
Well, that looks fantastic.
Yeah, it's like, there you go. And the thing is, the potatoes, as Chef AJ says, just eat a lot of them. You know, a lot of people think, oh, it doesn't, you know, you need some kind of like protein thing to go with it. Well, if you eat that whole thing, you'll get full. It's
oh, absolutely.
and there's it's just really about getting full and having, you know, those nice starches. And an interesting thing about potatoes too is that it's really good if you eat this refrigerated. Then the potatoes, there's a resistant starch that forms. You heard about that?
Yes,
And
absolutely.
it's really good for your colon health. So it's great. So that I love having these types of dishes, you know, in my repertoire.
Well, this has been fantastic. One thing before we go that we need to talk about is the burgers.
Mhm.
The purple burger that I've been hearing so much about. So let's talk about it. How did you come up with that, and what inspired you? Because I know people love hamburgers, and you know you've got a lot of wonderful recipes for burgers in here.
Well,
No, it's great because yeah, Glenn wanted to do burgers, and I was like, yes, I love burgers.
I wanted to do burgers, and I wanted to do burgers that are full of healthy ingredients. So,
Right.
you know how the USDA recommends that you have 5 to 7 fruits and vegetables per day. Well, you can have 5, 7, or 9 or 10 vegetables in these burgers. You know,
Right.
you can have eggplant and potatoes and corn and all kinds of vegetables in these burgers and beans. So the purple plant burger is just based on purple sweet potatoes. And that's one of my favorite foods. And so when you combine the purple sweet potatoes with some beans, maybe black beans, and some eggplant or different vegetables, and then the use of oats is crucial because you can use the oats to get just the right texture to make the patties. So if the patties are a little too moist, you add more oats. So you kind of can't go wrong. And then you make a bunch of these burgers and then you have them all week long. You know, they make a great thing to add to lunches or dinners. And also the whole book is about patriotism because
Right.
really, you know, there's nothing patriotic about eating a hamburger. You're just making yourself sick and then, you know, and then you're adding to our healthcare costs. So we want to have a healthy country. And purple burgers, what makes purple? Red and blue.
Well,
So
yeah.
red, white, and blue. It's a purple view of health. Purple foods are very healthy.
Well, it sounds delicious. I'm going to ask Karen to see if we have any questions from our audience. Let's see if there's anything. Nothing.
People watching, any questions?
People get shy about asking questions, which is okay. But I gotta say, it's been an absolute pleasure having you, Glenn and Tracy, on the show today. If you guys have not gotten this book yet, you really need to go and get it. You need to share this message across with all your friends and family. We need to be more vigilant about spreading the word about veganism. So I truly thank both of you for being on our show today. And Tracy, thank you so much for these beautiful recipes that you made for us today.
Yeah, and I'll put the recipe link in the comments, and or if you put it in the show notes, you can do that. And hope everybody enjoys. And you know, yes, please let us know what you think.
Thank you, Shayda.
The book.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for watching another episode of Healthy Cooking with Shayda. And don't forget, it's one bite at a time, one meal at a time, and we'll see you soon, guys. Have a wonderful afternoon. Bye.
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 All right, we're off.
All right, are they still there?
Yeah, are you guys?